the Recovery YouTube channel. I wanted to do a video today on mindset tips. So I wanted to talk about like things that I had to kind of shift my mindset and my perspective on in order to get where I am now. So I think I'd always had, like, even before the OCD got particularly bad, I'd always had like a lot of like irrational beliefs and like in general quite a negative outlook on everything. And I mean, that's not to say that I'm always positive all the time now, because I'm not, but I think there's being negative, being positive, and being realistic. And I think rather than being negative, I'm able to be more realistic. I'm able to kind of, my brain will automatically, when something happens, it will kind of automatically go to the most likely scenario, most likely solution, most likely thing to happen. You know, if I'm concerned that something's going to go wrong, then my brain will automatically now think, okay, chances of this, if it does go wrong, what will be the outcome? And I've said this before, that it's really interesting now to see what happens when my mind does try to latch onto certain things. It's almost like I have this tool set like sat in the back of my brain somewhere, and like a thought will come in, and it doesn't need to be an OCD thought. Like you can't differentiate between a normal thought and an OCD thought. You know, your thoughts are just what they are, and you never know if you have them because of OCD or just because they're the thoughts that are coming in. But if it is an unfavourable thought or something I would rather not think of, or, you know, something unpleasant, then it's almost like I don't need to do anything. I just sit back and let everything play out. But it's almost like there's this rational side to my brain that wasn't there previously. And that's kind of through time of working on my beliefs, time on like proving to myself that I don't need to fear a lot of the things that I was fearing previously. And that kind of rational side of my brain will jump in, and it's like a default now. It's a default setting. That's automatically what my brain goes to, rather than what it went to before, which would have been a worst case scenario. So I'm just watching my cat out of the window. He's making a very funny noise. Sorry. So that like change in my mindset has been massive. Also, gratitude. So gratitude's been a huge shift for me. So before, I would have to, like, when thinking of gratitude, I had to kind of force myself to come up with things, because I didn't feel grateful for anything. I felt like I had drawn the short straw and my life was really hard. And even the things that I was supposed to find happy, I didn't find any happiness in, because it was just difficult. So gratitude was really hard for me to, I didn't come to it naturally. Like I never felt naturally grateful for things. I had to really work on that and like look for like things in everyday life that I could be grateful for. And I remember I actually posted in groups like a long time ago now, but I remember saying like how strange it was that I'd started to enjoy things like the taste of coffee and going on walks and like sitting in the sun and things like that, because I'd never really experienced like feeling joy in things, which sounds really sad, but I hadn't, like, because I was just always so wrapped up in my own head and in my own suffering that I found it hard to enjoy anything, because I would just think of things as, okay, it's just, you know, a slightly better version of shit. Whereas as I started to improve a lot, I would kind of see little things in day to day. I remember sitting in work and I would think, oh, like I'm looking forward to going home and watching that movie that I wanted to watch and things like that. And I would catch myself and I would think, wow, you're looking forward to like doing something. Like it was a really strange feeling initially, but now like I find gratitude quite easy to come to. So I will always, like, even in situations where, you know, things aren't how I want them to be, I think, well, actually it could be like this, but instead I've got this, and you know, that's so much better, and I'm really grateful for that. And you don't have to make a conscious effort to constantly think about how great your life is, because you're not going to believe yourself if you say, oh, my life's so great, because you it's not at the moment for you. Like, if you're suffering with OCD, you don't think that your life's great, but it's just looking for those really minute moments. I can't remember who it is that refers to them as, someone who refers to them as like shimmers or something, which is like the opposite of like bad things in your life. Just like little like cracks of light, little like nice things that when you do feel them, you just think, wow, that was really nice to have that like tiny burst of feeling good. So when I was really suffering, it was really hard to find those. But it would normally come in like my little respite moments of the things that I really appreciated. And that's because respite at that point was very enjoyable. So it would be like after I'd had like a really good cry, because for some reason after crying, I don't know if it's just because of like the release of it, or you know, some chemical that has been released whilst you cry, but after crying I always felt better for like a minute or two. Like I had this like minute or two where it just felt like everything had left my body and I just felt calm. I mean, it would come straight back, but that little break was so enjoyable. Or like my daughter would be showing me something, or we used to sit and play a game like every night when I was like barely functioning, like just going to work, doing what she needed, and that was it. We would sit on the sofa pretty much every night and play. You guys have probably all heard of Roblox on phones, and we would sit and play on that, and I would get like really into it, because it was just it would just take my mind kind of off things a little bit, and like I would find myself sometimes just getting really into the game, and then I would think about it and I would be like, wow, I didn't actually suffer for like a few minutes then. And rather than, it was shifting the mindset from, oh, I only get those few minutes a day, to, wow, those few minutes a day are really nice and I really enjoy those when they do come. So like anything you can shift into a positive, and that's not saying you need to be positive all the time, but there are good points to every single thing that happens, even really like in your mind terrible things. There'll be some benefits to them. Like there will be things out of that are positive, and it's looking for those. And as I say, when you're doing your belief work, those will start to come a bit more naturally, because you start to dispute your worst case scenario and you look at, you know, what's the best thing that could happen if this worst case scenario does happen. And it's muscle memory. Like after like a period of time doing that, your mind will automatically take you to those positives. And mine definitely does that now, even when things happen that I'm really upset about, or that are really difficult. I just think, well, actually this is an opportunity for this, or this is an opportunity for this. So, you know, if your car breaks, yeah, that's really unfortunate and really stressful, and obviously you rely quite heavily on cars. Most people rely quite heavily on cars. Obviously, if you're in certain areas like London and things like that, you're not going to rely on cars. But where the kind of areas, the kind of area that I live in, like more rural areas and things, you do really rely on cars. You know, to get you to work, to get your children around. Like, there's so many things that you kind of, not that you need cars for, because there is public transport, there is, you know, other ways of doing things, but the cars make life so much more convenient for. So when your car breaks and you haven't got the money to fix it, you know, that feels really difficult. But you can turn that into, okay, well, it was going to break at some point. I'm glad it's done it now, so it's kind of out of the way. I haven't got to worry about the fact that it could be leading up to it breaking down. You know, I'm glad I didn't spend out loads of money diagnosing loads of little problems with it, and it just full on like went. So that saved me some money, possibly. You know, the situation could have been worse. I didn't particularly like that car anyway. The fuel on that car was actually really costly. The money that I'm now not spending on that fuel, I can save up and put towards something that's more economic, something that I'm going to enjoy more, something that's going to be a bit newer and maybe isn't going to break as quickly. You know, my mind will automatically, and my car isn't broke at the moment, but it does. I go through cars. It's a running joke that I do go through cars. So that's definitely a scenario I've had many times. And yeah, but my mind automatically kind of scans for good stuff now when people say things to me. I mean, I don't want to be that person that every time someone says something bad, I say, well, actually, just think it could be worse because of such and so. You know, you don't want to like downplay how people are feeling by always trying to make the situation sound better than it actually is. But it can be a little bit frustrating and understandable because we used to do it ourselves, but it can be a little bit frustrating when people only see the negative side of things, because there is so much positive to be had in every single situation, even the ones that don't look like there is. Yeah, so these are just a few little like mindset shifts that happened as I was recovering, and things that have made a massive difference. And these are all things I had to practice for such a long period of time, was not believing them. So it is, I think recovery is very much a fake it until you make it situation. Like, you do need to act like the way you want to be in order for your brain to catch up with that. Like, your actions need to go first, your brain will catch up later. You need to be talking more positively. You need to be, you know, really looking for these things, writing them down during your disputing. When people say, oh, you know, that sounds really awful, just thinking, well, actually, does it? Or, you know, is there this positive that could come from it? Is there this positive that could come from it? And then, even if you're not believing that those are positive things, or you're not believing that those are kind of where your mind is ever going to automatically go to, you think you're always going to be of a negative mindset, once you start acting more positive, your brain will catch up, and eventually your whole perception of things will start to shift, because you're creating those changes, you're creating those new pathways in your brain. Yes, so feel free to pop comments below of any questions you have, any more videos you want me to cover, and I will speak to you all soon.